Today there is music in the air. Our house has been quiet for a while, and in the last few days, Emily and my daughter Alice have been choosing music. And there's something in that because it's making me think about music again, and hearing all of those old tunes from the past, they sort of speak to you, they get to your heart. And there's a reason why I'm saying this, because we're super excited today about our first podcast guest. So welcome to the Internet Seriously. I'm Lucien Taylor in Oxford.
I'm Emily Taylor, also in Oxford.
And I'm Kieren McCarthy, also in Oxford.
And today, coming up, we're talking to Sari Schorr, our first podcast guest, renowned singer from Brooklyn, USA, and the world of blues. Welcome, Sari.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. So thrilled to be with you.
Oh, fantastic, Sari. Thanks for joining us in this world first. This is a milestone for the Internet Seriously, and also for, I think, the internet industry, where we're trying to bring people together from outside the internet industry, but who are kind of depend upon the internet and are very connected to the internet, and have that chat and learn and discover things together. So I'm going to, before we dig into the discussion, I just want to give a little bit of history about you, Sari, so bear with us, sorry about this. Born in Queens, New York, working the music scene in South Bronx of New York City and on Manhattan's Lower Eastern Side, with collaborations with Kiefer Sutherland and The Sweet. In 2016, Sari first burst onto the blues rock scene with her critically acclaimed debut album, A Force of Nature, which was produced by the iconic, I'm flattered to say, British blues pioneer Mike Vernon, who produced things like David Bowie and Eric Clapton, John Mayall, Fleetwood Mac. You know, really worked with the biggest and the best, and ended up with the best of the best, and that's you, Sari. Sari's latest studio album with Procol Harum's Robin Trower topped the US Billboard album charts. I'm going to keep on going because it's not just about work, these discussions, it's also about life experiences. And along your journey, Sari, some life experiences considered to be as debilitating as they are heartbreaking have only accentuated your own aura of genuine raw resilience and strength. I've got to list these out. A first responder in the 9/11 attacks, and I think Emily's going to talk a bit about that later. A volunteer aid worker after the earthquake in Haiti, thrown into a car trunk and kidnapped in China. We've got to know more about that. Sari relies heavily on the internet to grow and connect with a diverse audience spanning continents and to showcase and sell her music. Thank you. Sari, I'm bursting to ask the first question, and then I'm going to hand over to the brain boxes here. Sari, you've been described as a true live musician. What does that mean?
Well, it means that the audience inspires me. And the reason I do my work is because I am in a desperate quest to create value in the lives of other people. And performing is the greatest way that I can do that. And it's incredibly rewarding. There's nothing else in my life that connects me to people in this way.
So you're not the kind of musician that sits in a studio like the Eurythmics, getting on the road once every 10 years, but most of the time hiding. You like to get in front of the people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's the fans who really inform the songwriting that I do. I would be out on tour, every day of the year if I could. We have to deliver records in order to remain relevant as recording artists. But I love, I do enjoy being in the recording studio. It's a completely different creative process.
Yeah.
It's much more challenging because you're trying to generate that kind of emotional storytelling that is, for me, very authentic when I'm on stage because I'm talking directly to people.
Wonderful.
But in video, you try to recreate that.
Yeah.
So
Can I just ask about that? Sorry, I know this is Lucien's bit, but I just can't resist. I'm really fascinated by the difference between live performing and especially for you as such an incredible vocalist to get that energy through the studio process and millions of takes and still. Because I feel like recorded music is so much less forgiving than live music, and that people hear everything in the recorded output. How do you cope with that, and how do you maintain that sort of like raw energy that a live performance will bring?
So you have to divorce yourself from the idea of perfection and accept the fact that there is beauty in the imperfection, because as humans, we're not intended to be perfect, and we're not perfect communicators. And the more raw and the more honest it is, the more integrity you have. And that's the great thing about live. You don't have a chance to do it again. And there's a risk involved in that because, as a live artist, I love to take chances, and I will lead the band to places that we have not gone before. And most of the time it works, but there are times that we will be looking at each other on stage, and it's exhilarating too, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's what keeps our live show so exciting and so real. And, it is really checking in on yourself when you're in the studio to remind yourself what you're trying to achieve. Is it a perfect performance, or is it an honest performance?
No, I really could just talk about this forever, because I used to have a band. I used to be an actor. I was always interested in improvisation, and I was always interested in that live engagement with the audience, letting the audience tell you what to do. Sadly, part of my job is to try and bridge our conversation, which is what I really would love to talk about, with the internet, which is our industry, and to try and help join the dots between the real world that you're in as an artist and the technical world that's been designed and developed all around us. And Kieren's got some answers. So before we dig deeper into the more historic things about you as a person, we just want to do some housekeeping and sort of talk to you a bit about that, the internet. So Kieren, you had a discussion with Sari.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the things I was interested in is how do you see the role of a musician in society? We had this pandemic period where it was really disrupted, I think. And I think musicians certainly had a lot to say about that, and I've helped people reflect on that. I also recall as soon as some of the lockdowns were lifted, as soon as people felt it was safe, I ended up going to a lot more live gigs. And I know a lot of other people did. And there's waning slightly, but there's still an intensity live gigs that I hadn't felt since I was a teenager. And I think that's the connection that we all realized that we were missing. But to tie it briefly with the internet, it's there was this sort of enormous promise of the internet that you make good music and anybody in the world can hear it, and there's going to be this massive explosion of all of these artists everywhere. And right now it feels a little bit like we've gone back even more concentrated than it was before, with everybody talking about Taylor Swift and Oasis in this country. How have you experienced that as an independent artist?
It's a double-edged sword. The internet has exposed me to a worldwide audience, no doubt about it. But it's not a fair playing field any longer. Social media used to be a great platform for discovering new artists and niche music, but thanks to the algorithms, it has become a pay-to-play situation for all artists, and it's extremely expensive. There's no chance for us to reach our fans organically. Everything has to be paid. And
really,
yeah,
so
there is no organic growth on social media. For instance, on my page, if I put out a post, whatever it is, no matter how engaging, unless I put money behind it, and based on the amount of fans you have, for me, it would cost £1,000 for all my fans to see one single post. only 3 to 6% of my fans are going to see that post organically.
Right. And you know, the game has always been, if we go back to the sort of Pink Floyd and the start of the mega bands, the Led Zeppelins, it was always a sort of balance, wasn't it, on a game with the marketing. You had the big companies behind you, and now in a way a surrogate for that is the internet companies and the social media companies. I think you've frozen out there, Sari. I'm just checking that you're still with us.
Yeah.
You are.
You're back.
It was the movement that did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask you about that? Because also, like Kieren and Lucien, you know, I've been around since the sort of early days of the internet, and actually the music industry and the artist was part of the whole sort of policy dialogue that we all convinced ourselves about 25 years ago, that, you know, the internet was this democratizing force. It was going to help the independent artist be discovered and reach worldwide audiences. And you're saying, yeah, it does that. But the downside is we thought it was going to eliminate all of the middlemen. But it sounds like there's just different middlemen. I mean, because it used to be like the barrier of the A&R man, didn't it? And, you know, so you're reliant on the internet to reach your audience, aren't you?
We all are. And, you know, the advantage before the internet, there was an A&R guy, for better or worse, who was at least a human being that you could get in front of. And now there's this mysterious algorithm that nobody even knows what the code is, how to break through the algorithm. And it creates an echo chamber where it wants to show you what you already know, what you've already engaged with. So it's not allowing you to discover new artists the way it once did in the early days of the internet. And also because of the algorithms, there's a very, very short attention span. It is only minutes or days before any content is completely gone. So there's not even enough time for people to really dig in and explore things in a feed that is endless. Unlike a book, there's a beginning and an end. But with social media, it's endless scrolling. And that's why it's so difficult to capture anyone's attention long enough for them to begin to appreciate something.
And where's the good news? How could this be better? Is it just being fairer? Is it about the balance between paying for an audience, which I think it's fair enough that Taylor Swift pays for an audience to some extent, but the independent artists are still on the same basis, and that just seems unfair, wouldn't you say?
It is. It's very unfair because the artists who have tremendous resources behind them, you know, buy up the time on your feed. I know a company, and I won't mention the names, but they're spending $10,000 a week, £10,000 every week just to get their artists in your feed. So how can we make it more equitable? Well, it's difficult when there's so much profit to be made.
There's clearly something needs to change here in this balance.
Well, I was just thinking, you were talking about, and there is recorded music and live music, and they are two different kind of animals, and you were explaining really well what that resonance is with the audience. Have you figured out a way to use the internet to provide you with that kind of live resonance, or is that something that we hope will come down in the future?
Well, the first time I really used the internet to connect directly with my audience was when our tour was canceled because of the pandemic.
Wow.
And we were in Austria. We had a sold out show, and we were there at soundcheck when the government put a ban on any gatherings of more than 400 people. So our show was canceled, and we had literally hours to get back to the UK, and I made it onto the very last flight coming back into the States. I was very lucky. And we had prepared for months for this tour. It was going to be my biggest tour ever.
No.
And yeah, we had a new live album. There was so much excitement around this tour. And suddenly I find myself back in Brooklyn, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And a lot of artists at that time were just picking up their guitars and playing in their bedrooms. But I felt I wanted to do something that was more for the audience. What would be more interesting for my fan? How can I connect with my fans if I can't be with them? But how can I connect with them in a way that would be of value for them? Not just, I need to sing, I need to play. So, set up a camera and watch me do this in my home. So I got the idea to produce a music video to show New York City in lockdown. And it was really a haunting, incredible view of the city in complete isolation. And what I hope people got from that was a sense of how important gratitude is in our lives, to be grateful for the simple things, the things that we have now lost, the ability just to go out and get a coffee with a friend. And all of these things, they become apparent in this video. It's called Ordinary Life.
That is a beautiful, beautiful video and song, Sari. And actually watching it took me back to the pandemic. First of all, it's like New York looks so incredible, just empty. And these people that you see on the streets with their mask. And there was one moment that really struck me and reminded me of something I'd completely forgotten or buried, which was queuing for a supermarket, 2 meters apart, or however many feet that is, 6 feet apart and everyone's got their head down and everyone's depressed and everyone's silent. And I really vividly remember that. But New York looks like it's like the day after a zombie apocalypse. And it's extraordinary. We've got some images of it there for those of us who are watching it on YouTube. But amazing. And how did you shoot the video?
Good question, Emily. With this iPhone.
You're joking.
So technology.
I did it.
How would you?
With my iPhone, and then I enlisted the help of my husband for some of the selfie shots, and I had 3 pit bulls, and they were along for the shoot, and some of the footage is a little bit shaky because they were pulling him, but that's how I did it. And I just that was for me like the greatest thing about the internet is our ability to share content that is of value for each other, and not just to feed into the algorithm and put out meaningless, ridiculous content just to get a spike in views. And that's depreciating the value of the internet because the content is not good enough. And to answer your question from earlier, if we insist on producing and watching higher quality content, that would be a big step forward. I mean, the interesting thing, TikTok, and they talk about banning TikTok in the States here. If you look at the typical TikTok feed, it's a lot of girls in bikinis doing selfies. However, in China, TikTok is an educational platform. And that's value.
I wanted to get back to this thing about we actually know and talk to the people who invented the internet. We have meetings with them, and it's fascinating to talk to them because like Vint Cerf and Sir Tim Berners-Lee, they invented the internet to make it easier to share academic documents. So it was that was the spirit it was built in. Did we imagine that it would become this sort of monster that it's become, Kieren?
Well, Vint Cerf, one of my favorite quotes of his is he says the internet holds a mirror up to society. And I think that's largely true for better and for worse. Although now we're looking at bringing in laws to try and produce more of a society that we want broadly. And for a lot of people, looking at women in bikinis, as you say, is the sort of thing they want to do on their phone. probably don't want to do that. Well, maybe they do in real life. But phones have become a strange
They
kind
probably
of...
don't get to do it very much in real life.
You don't get to
You
look
know
at
what I'm
women in
saying?
bikinis too much in the safe way while you're queuing up. But yeah, it's we're trying to make a slightly better internet, and it's requiring laws, I think, a little bit more than it was just letting anybody look at whatever they thought, and then the algorithm give you whatever is getting the most hits.
And people are challenging this everywhere. You're hearing voiceover artists in the movie industry. You're hearing musicians now. Everyone's saying this is not right. Some of you, and we'll get to this in a minute. In fact, before I ask you the next question, we're going to just do our a bit of fun, a bit of nonsense. Okay, so every week we ask people about their guilty pleasure online. Sari Schorr, what is your guilty pleasure online?
It's changed because in the last few weeks we have rescued a beautiful little pit bull puppy, and I have been spending a lot of time watching the puppy cam.
This is great.
It is hilarious to see how she entertains herself. Actually, she is the real entertainer in the family. I think she's auditioning for my act.
This is great. What is the puppy cam?
Pardon?
What is the puppy cam?
So my neighbor actually gave us 2 little cameras, and they're set up in the living room so we can check in with her when I'm a very protective mother, and it was nerve-wracking leaving her alone. I mean, I don't know what I expected to see. I was hoping I'd find her making dinner for us, but just to make sure she was okay. So we have Prue Cam 1 and Prue Cam 2. Her name is Prudence, and it's so funny. But normally, under normal circumstances, my guilty pleasure is LinkedIn Learning. I love learning things online, and I have learned
fantastic
from LinkedIn Learning and Mac Pro Video how to do film editing and film production in Final Cut Pro. That's how I was able to do the Ordinary Life video. And I am continuing my piano and guitar lessons online. I mean, that's the greatest gift of the internet, the amount of things we can learn. I do yoga. I learn meditation. I'm using the Calm app. That is really one of my big guilty pleasures, and I use it when I'm on tour all the time. So
if you had to pick one, because this goes into our Christmas special, Sari Schorr, what is your one?
Puppy cam.
No, you're not allowed to lobby.
Puppy cam.
No, come on now. You're not allowed to, what is it called, suggest the right answer.
I'm not suggesting puppy cam.
We're not suggesting puppy cam.
They're not suggesting puppy cam, but if you had to use one that could grow old, what guilty pleasure would you choose?
Yeah. My Calm app, because it just, wherever I am, I can get into a meditation, whether I'm in the tour bus for 9 hours. I can listen to some really inspirational guided meditations, and I think it really is one of the healthiest things that I do for myself when I'm out on tour.
This is fantastic. The puppies lose out. They're a temporary.
We'll bring back the puppies.
We will all outgrow the puppy cam.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, sorry, which is, do you have a playlist for touring? I remember because I listened to, during the pandemic, Katie Tunstall put out this is my tour list playlist for the last tour. And I mean, obviously musicians tend to have really good musical taste. Yeah. And I loved it. And it's still in there in one of my playlists. Do you have a tour playlist that you stick with? Do you have your same 15 songs or?
No, I have a playlist when I'm doing crazy things like riding my bicycle from Staten Island to Canada to raise money for Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center. Then I have playlists. But when I'm on tour, I listen to audiobooks. And I'm listening to The Art of the Impossible right now, which is a brilliant book, because my brain needs a break from music when I'm on tour, because we are so into and so focused on the music. When I'm out on tour, I actually detach from other influences, and I just focus on my craft. But my playlists are for when I'm doing marathons and when I'm doing crazy bike rides.
We're interested in any playlists that have been supplied by a great rock blues person such as yourself. So if there is anything you can share, we'll put it in the comments after this. Time for something else crass. It's time for our Tech Room 101.
Room 101.
So,
Sari Schorr, what is your Tech Room 101?
I would love to take that like button and put that, just banish it forever, because everyone wants to be liked, right? And it's so sweet. We all want to be loved, we want to be liked, and every time we get a like, it triggers this dopamine reaction in our brain. We can't help it. It's just, that's what happens, and it's like this instant hit of gratification, self-gratification, and it is fleeting, it's addictive, and it doesn't create value for anyone else. That's the thing. It's all about us, and it trains us to be more self-centered in our participation on the internet. Like, what can I do to get likes? And it's not about what can I give. And I think that would be a big shift in how we can make the internet better, if we can think about what can I give to people that will actually be of value to them. And that's why, as a live performer, that is so rewarding for me, because I always approach it every single show. Before I go on stage, I consciously think, what can I do to be of value? That something that I love can actually enhance the lives of other people. Not about what can the audience give me now that they're a captive audience. The audience is not there for me. They're there for the music, and I am a conduit that allows them to experience something that's bigger than all of us.
Wow,
So,
I love
the
this.
like button's got to go.
Yeah, I have never heard that yet, Kieren. What do you think about the like button?
So, I think so. I'm going to be devil's advocate. If you got rid of the like button, you'd also have to get rid of the love button, the instant love button. When I found that
because we'd all use that instead.
When you're watching something live or something you really appreciate something, and the screen gets flooded with love hearts. Have you seen one of them?
Yeah.
I quite like that. It doesn't offend me in the same way the like button does.
So, Sari, would that be allowed in your internet future without the like button? The live sort of reactions? Where do you draw the line?
The good, difficult question to answer, because one of the things about the like button is it's so easy to just hit like. It doesn't create communication. It's cheating a dialogue. It's not investing time in something. Comments are different. When you comment on something, if something it moves you, or you find it's interesting or of value, and to comment on something, that is engaging in a dialogue, as opposed to just like.
God.
Well, is it,
really
were you saying about cheating? Have you had this experience? I'm sure you have. Like, you put out something cherished, like, here is my new song, here's a paper I've written, and you get loads of likes, and you're like, great, people have listened to my stuff or read it, and then you look through at the stats, and like maybe 1% of people who've liked it have actually read it, clicked through to the dumb article that you've written.
I love this. I'm going to bridge into something crass, because the guys have reminded me. I forgot to say to you, audience, if you are interested in what we're talking about today, please follow us. You don't have to like us. There's some buttons like on the screen.
Give us a pointless like.
Give us a pointless like by all ways. But also do follow us, follow the conversation, and do comment. We want to hear back from you, and we want your chat, which we'll pick out a few next week, as we're doing this week from last week. Emily, you just wanted to dig out some of these crazy things we were told about you, Sari.
I was just like looking at the clock and thinking, we're going to have to get Sari on again, because I want to talk about how you ended up kidnapped in China. And I think there might be a tech angle on this. So tell us the story. How did you get kidnapped in China, and how did you escape?
Well, I was offered a tour in China, and I don't think I've ever turned down a tour anywhere.
Of course.
I will sing for you anywhere. And I had never been to China. It sounded great. Although at the time, 60 Minutes had run a program about how they were luring American singers to China for sex trafficking. But I felt I could defend myself, and I'm 5'7", and I had taken judo in sixth grade, and I always beat all the boys in high school in arm wrestling contests. So I thought, I'll be okay.
Good.
One night after a concert, as I was coming off, they had these big giant stages with lots of smoke and fire. I almost always fell off the front of the stage every night. But I was whisked through the backstage by a couple of guys. I thought one of them was the manager, and right out the back door, and there was a lot of commotion and a lot of yelling, and all of a sudden they're throwing me in the back of the trunk with a blanket and trunk closed, and I thought,
this was after you'd done a
60
gig. You'd done the gig. You'd finished. Thank you.
Good night.
Beijing. Good
Thank
night.
you. No chance for an encore. I'm in a trunk now.
You go past the green room and you're in the car.
And did the car drive off somewhere?
No, the car was on. The car was running.
Did you think, I'm going to die here?
You know what? For some reason, and I can be claustrophobic, but because I did a brain study, I volunteered for a brain study, and I had to do an MRI with goggles, a nose plug, and earphones.
Yeah. And keep still.
And I realized then and there that I was actually claustrophobic. But in the trunk, I was just thinking about, so that 60-minute show, that, wow, that was really good reporting, because, But then I was thinking about that somehow I knew that this was not going to be the end. And a little while later, they just let me out. It turns out there was a ransom that was paid. And it was so disappointing because I've never to this day found out how much they paid. So I don't know what my worth is in China.
And who paid it? And who? This is just so many questions. But this reminded me, so how did
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, because there was a public campaign a few months ago from, I think, FBI and maybe some of the NCSC here about think before you link, and warning people against fake LinkedIn requests. When you get a LinkedIn request and then you get an offer that's like too good to be true, and often people end up in very compromising situations. There wasn't an example of doing concerts in China and then ending up in a trunk. But Kieren, have you had any of these?
No, but I have actually. I mean,
You see, because he's
No, but I've never been kidnapped and offered a tour. But I could see myself going for it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I always know when it's odd, because it's the CEO of something. We're really interested in this, and it's always a very young, attractive woman. And I think, well, you're in your 20s. I don't think you're the CEO of this company. Talk about internet governance. It seems unlikely. So as soon as there's a young, attractive woman attached to it, and I suppose for most people it'd be like that would be an enticement, but for me it's an immediate red flag. But I'm really intrigued by this story. Was it the people running the tour that you think was behind the kidnapping, or was it information that was shared with the tour people and they grabbed you? It's just such a strange
bizarre story.
Yeah. Don't know. The agent who booked this tour was in New York, and she didn't know anything about it. The manager of the venue, who actually had become a kind of friend, he was horrified by the whole thing. And it was funny, the mayor had been there that night too, and he had come up on stage, and we were doing a little interview after the show, and he was really quite lovely. We ended up, after this was all done, going for dinner with the mayor and his whole crew and his entourage to a karaoke restaurant. So that's how the
Did you do a few numbers?
Now that's real music, Sari.
Sari,
Let me tell you about karaoke. So we're almost running out of time. We've just got time for one more question. But first of all, the voice of God. We like to fold back each week to the week before and just pick up one or two things of interest from there. So voice of God, please.
Hello.
He's added echo. He's added echo.
It's going to his head. God, this is all going to your head, God.
Yes. But it's gone now. It's
gone
your
now.
favourite section of the episode, a comment of the week.
Yay, comment of the week.
I was going to do some fanfare, but I've
Lost
lost my
the button.
mojo. I've
You
lost my
lost the-
mojo.
This is a live show, everyone.
Okay, well, anyway, cutting to the chase. This is in response to last week's episode where we talked about Apple Intelligence with our wonderful Director of Engineering, Nathan Allen. And this is from Craig Penfold. The industry needs to kill off the AI phrase. A lot of what is being called AI might be useful, but the bad parts are making it all look bad.
Craig,
Well,
good point.
Sari,
Legit
this is
point.
over to you. Is AI good or bad? Do you use it in anything at all, or are you just sick of it? How do you feel about AI songs? It's here we go. I knew you would. I knew you would. We're getting to know each other.
So, okay, there is no emotional depth in anything AI tries to create. It's not really creating. It's an illusion that it's creating anything. It is just connecting pieces of information and compiling. But anything that it does, because it can't create something new, it is just churning out very homogenized art, music, and there's no personal expression because there's not a person doing it. I think AI is incredibly powerful, useful tool. I mean, I was watching a documentary a couple of weeks ago about how it's able to find tumors and cancer that the best radiologists in the world weren't able to see. It's making everybody a better writer, so maybe we'll be more polite in our email correspondence. But it's advancing far more quickly than our ability to learn how to put the guardrails in, and there's too much opportunity for the bad players to get control.
Yeah, and that sort of points to the need for regulation and the need for us not to just passively accept technological advances and then, oops, we broke society again, but just to try to get on the front foot. I was really interested, Sari, in the way that you were articulating what a better society and better internet might look like, something where people are encouraged to go deeper, less sort of endless scroll, and more exploration. But yeah,
and to remove yourself from it. The problem with the internet is everybody gets to be the star of the world, and this obsession with promoting yourself and for what means, for what reward, really. The greatest musicians that I know, and I really try my hardest to be invisible in the process of trying to create art and express art. It's like I said earlier, it's not about me. And the problem, the internet creates this universe around one individual person, the person who's creating the selfie and creating their own delusional reality. And if we could take less interest in ourselves and more interest in curiosity in other people, then the internet would become so much richer and so much more, so much healthier. It wouldn't be such a disruptive force for so many young people, especially, and so disruptive to their self-esteem and triggering, horrible depression because nothing is real. Nothing. Honestly, there are times where I just want to put up a post about what a terrible day I had, struggling to find the right lyric for a song or the right melody for a new piece of music. But, I don't want to create negativity in the world. And the algorithm loves that. So it's looking for conflict and negativity, and it's going to feed as much of that into your life as possible, because that is what is going to keep you transfixed. And fear, that's a real trigger that will keep people engaged. And, we have to just step out of our own cinematic movie of our lives that we want to portray all the time. I mean, it used to be that artists actually created art, not content. And it's exhausting. Like, we're expected to throw out content all the time. Look how fabulous our life is. Look how great this tour. Look at the sold out shows. Look at this brilliant piece of music. Well, I can tell you, every brilliant piece of music I do write, I have written probably 50 pieces of music I will never subject you to hear. I wouldn't want to put you through it. But, it's just, we have to be more honest and not try and be so impressive and so perfect all the time, and step out of the fiction that everything we do matters. It doesn't matter. Most people are not going to care what you had for breakfast or that you had your nails done with your mom. It doesn't matter. Think about the things that matter. Think about where you can help. There are people suffering. Maybe you can draw attention to people who are going through a really hard time. Maybe if we all could be more honest about, there are some things that are really disturbing me. Let me share these things with you, but not from a personal perspective, but more in terms of what your community is dealing with.
Oh,
Sari.
Sari.
Well, Sari, we've talked to you for an hour now.
Oh, that's not very soundbitey.
It's not very soundbitey, and I have just loved every minute of it, and we could go on for another hour. I don't think I think we might have to get Sari back. But I wanted, just before we wrap up, Sari, when are people in the UK and Europe going to be seeing you? What's coming up? Was that your question?
We have
Hang
one
on.
thing.
Lucien's got a question for you.
I'm bursting. I don't want to mansplain this, but Kieren lives near the Half Moon in Putney.
Yeah, literally 2 minutes from the Half Moon.
We both, Sari, you and I, have played at the Half Moon in Putney. Me with a band 3 decades ago.
Lucien's pitching here. Be careful.
I'm not gonna. Don't worry. Hey, if you turn up and play the Half Moon again, there's no way I'm gonna blow you off the stage. You got the space for yourself.
Fun. We'll have to do a jam together.
But when the guys, every time I talk about my old band, they put a picture up of me looking absolutely like an idiot with my band. I really hate you for this.
Thanks,
this
guys.
is some nice negative speech. Anyway, we always like to leave on a laugh. And that's usually me. But please come back to the Half Moon in Putney and we'll all meet up.
Tell us about what your plans for the next few months. Sari,
I'll be going back out on tour in October, and then I'll be in the UK at the end of November. Woo. And people can find the tour dates at sarischorr.com.
Thank you for that. Sari. We will come and see you and we'll all have a beer, because you'll forever be our first podcast guest, and this is
you never forget your first, right?
Oh no, you never forget your first, and this is never. This is going to be really going places thanks to you. So today we have been talking to Sari Schorr, our first podcast guest, renowned singer from Brooklyn, USA, and the world of blues. Thank you, Sari. That was great fun, lovely conversation today, and thank you, everyone.